Hey guys, welcome to Gear Up episode number 2, and today we are here with Craigie Mack. Craig is a sponsor of first teams around Australia and is also a volunteer. We're going to learn a little bit more about his role, sponsoring teams and volunteering throughout the first community. So let's gear up. Thank you very much for coming on. It's great to have you. I know you're a very busy man.
Happy to be here. Any excuse to get out of work, that's how it is.
Tell people a little bit about your company and what you do.
I run a company called Acreage Driveways. It's a small family company that's been around for 35 years or so. But yeah, we do exactly that. Driveways, bitumen, asphalt, civil construction, machinery, heavy machinery, things like that. So that's what we do for a job, yeah.
Yeah, and you sponsor the BotBuilders. So
I do, yes.
Yes, FRC and FTC.
Yeah, and FLL as well, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. I just I support the club however I can, I guess.
Yeah. How did you discover first, especially for a company sponsoring teams? A lot of companies like to go towards a high-level sports team, whether it be rugby, soccer, things like that. What made you lean towards a first team?
Well, I mean, originally we actually got our son into robotics, and that was a little bit of a lucky find for us because he didn't really fit the mold. And, when we were dealing with kids as they were growing up, we tried to get them engaged in numerous sports and activities, and as much as he would participate, it really wasn't his thing. He was a different kind of character. And yeah, by chance, somebody put us on to First and the BotBuilders, and we brought him down here and realised this is where he belongs. This is his type of field. It's basically his people, his comfortable environment, and so to start with, we kind of just let him run with that. And then when we, as a family, when we realised the significance that he was getting out of First and out of the BotBuilders, in particular, not so much about his robotics, but about the extra stuff, the outreach and the time they spend working with the communities and the Indigenous teams and the Starlight Foundation and all of that sort of stuff. We found that to be, quite a rich experience, and more so than the actual coding and robotics and everything else that he does. That's his passion. So we feel pretty strongly about that. So from our perspective, we're more interested in supporting this, where it gives so much more back to the community than what we would have if we'd supported a football team or a netball team or whatever and that sort of stuff. And we've done that in the past, but this is just something that when you see it in operation, and it's so not widely known in Australia, so it's sort of hard to get the word out there. When you talk to people about it, they have no idea what you're talking about. But when you can explain to them exactly what the team you guys do on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis, there's nothing on the spectrum that compares. So I think it's worth committing, whatever we can to support that and substantiate that.
Yeah, and I know Dean came and actually says it a lot. First is the only sport in the world that every single person can go pro, and I think that's a really, really great line.
Yeah. It's quite an interesting sport from when you try to explain to somebody robots. Of course, the first thing everybody says is that BattleBots. You get that all the time, right? But when you try to explain it to somebody, they have no concept of it until you see it in operation. And then you see it and it's like, okay, this is really something. But it's unique in that respect because, like the upper echelon teams, like the Blue BotBuilders, are fiercely competitive with each other. They want to win, they want to do their very best, but incredibly supportive of everybody else anyway. And every time you're at a tournament, there are teams that the boys are helping out and trying to encourage everybody else to do their best. And you don't get that in any other activity.
Yeah.
You go to a football tournament and you're here to crush everybody's hopes and dreams. And I'll tell you, I used to coach netball quite literally for a long time. And my literal battle cry to my team was, your goal is to go out there and crush their hopes and dreams. And that's how I coach girls to play, right? You don't do that here. You go out, you play to win, but then you come back and support everybody and do your best to get everybody else on the field and try to get them to do their best. It's an unusual concept and it's amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And from a company perspective, obviously a lot of companies, they like to get that two-way deal with their sponsorships. Sponsoring a first team, what does your company get out of that?
Well, it's a good question. And I would say that, aside from, advertising and product placement and, whatever, I think we get, like I would out of any sport team, is you get that sense of giving back to the community, and in a fairly unique community in this robotics environment, I think is pretty special. So we get that out of it. And on top of that, obviously, as I say, I'm supporting my children's passions because I've got 2 of them in it now. So I'm happy to encourage them and help them pursue their goals and dreams and all that sort of stuff. And, obviously we get solid social media, feedback and, advertising campaigns and things like that when you're at the upper echelon, your higher end sponsors and all that sort of stuff. No, so, I think the main thing is about exposure and, showing that, your community is supported in a specific way. I think any small business like mine, when they support a community activity, a sport or whatever, they're not really supporting it to gain, market share back. They're supporting it to gain social community support, that sort of thing. And that's the main objective of why we do what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know as a community team, funds can be really, really, really hard to get. And it is important that, teams try and look out for, try and go for sponsors and the different companies willing to help teams like you just said. What should teams do to try and attract those sponsors in? What do you look for and what's a good way to really get on that radar?
That's a really tough question because it's such a unique, like First Robotics is such a unique thing that it's very hard in Australia to show people really what it is that you guys do. And as I say, I emphasize the outreach, the Indigenous support, all of the charity work you guys do. Nobody else does that. So it's very hard to try to show people that even as a small, and you are a small community team that is financially restricted, it's important to try and explain, or at least deliver to your potential sponsors, that side of what you guys do, because that's the important stuff. But it's very difficult to do that. So I don't have a genuine answer for you for that, aside from, social media and, GEARUP podcast and things like that, and gaining more exposure and, getting more clicks. That sort of stuff is obviously how most small business operates. I think the, club probably needs to keep working in that direction and, keep showing your wares around to people and stuff like that. It's the best I could offer you, I suppose.
Yeah, it's really good to hear from a company's point of view, because a lot of teams don't actually know that most companies just want to help out the teams.
Yep, it's a really good point. And as you say, like, because I work in a small company and I deal with a lot of other small companies, and I know they all sponsor various things and stuff like that, it's really hard to try and explain to them what it is you do and just how much support you guys really need to be able to do the level of work you guys do. But that's really the critical stuff. So I think that's the stuff that we're more interested in. Like me personally, I value that more than everything else. So that's why I'm in it.
Yep. And you've also been volunteering for quite a while now. I think we should actually probably get into character before we talk about it.
Yeah. If we're going to talk volunteering, let me change. Yep. I'll be back.
I reckon that's a bit more like it.
Oh, that's better. Now I'm ready to go. So not on the clock anymore.
So you've been volunteering for around 3 years now.
Yep.
And which roles have you actually volunteered in?
Well, mostly queuing. and lead queuing. That's pretty much the fun stuff. I've done a bit of judging and scoring, especially in FTC this season's been entertaining. Trying to count artifacts is quite a challenge, but yeah, queuing's pretty much what I do most. And I'll tell you, the reason I like to queue is because I don't have a horse in the race when I'm queuing.
Yeah.
So nobody can say, oh, he didn't score me properly, because I just guide you in and it's up to someone else. So it's a cheating way of being involved without actually being responsible.
Yeah. And I actually want to re-tie it in with our sponsorship thing. So here in Queensland, the leading sponsor of Queensland First is a company called Bechtel. Bechtel are an engineering company in Australia and in the US. They actually sponsor us too. And Bechtel was actually, their staff were some of the key volunteers at these events. And quickly switching back to the sponsorship side, why should companies volunteer in first to have a look at these different events?
Okay. Well, I mean, volunteering at a tournament is the easiest way to fully grasp the concept of what it is that you do. You can explain it to somebody and, that's all well and good. And then you can show them your robots and that's better. But it's not until they actually see the gameplay and the way it works that anybody gets a real grasp of what's going on. And if they volunteer as judges, then they really get to see the other side of it too, all of the extra work you have to do to prepare for your presentations and stuff like that. So then they really see, the hard work behind the scenes and not just the gameplay. So yeah, it's definitely the best way to see how it works.
I'm going to try and give you a little bit of a hard question here. What is the biggest struggle of volunteering in your eyes?
Okay, well, I mean, from a first perspective, and particularly in Australia, trying to get volunteers and sustain volunteers is tricky. I think that as, team members age out, well, then you tend to have a drop-off in those volunteer ranks and stuff like that. You get some that will, stay on as alum and mentor and all that sort of stuff, but filling all those roles is probably the toughest thing I think they have. From a personal point of view, I don't know, I guess if you've come in and you've had no experience whatsoever, it can be a little daunting. But every time I've volunteered, even like the very first time, people are very easy and accommodating. So, more than happy to give you a chance to sort of find your feet and all that sort of stuff. Some of the games, like when you're reffing games, in particular artifact counting, okay, that's a bit hectic when you first start. It takes a little practice to get used to that.
Yeah.
But, that's all part of the fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't mind it.
How was your reffing in the Decode season? Because it's the first time you have been a ref and scoring.
Yep. 100%. Probably, everybody I surveyed said that hands down the best scoring ref in the country. So, I mean, of course, I only surveyed myself, but still. No, it was really quite fun. It was challenging, but at least in that tournament, I didn't have a team in that tournament. We were just supporting other people's tournaments. So when it's like that, there's no stress. I don't want to ref when, the BotBuilders are on the field. I'd rather stand back and let somebody else do that because I don't want to, anybody to question integrity. So that's why I'd rather queue. But yeah, tournaments that we're not in, oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Liked it.
Yes. A lot of people love you at events. You are a very main volunteer that a lot of people recognize. How do you make it such a good experience for students that come to these events?
How do I make it a good experience? Good question. Well, my job, I like to think a volunteer's job is to try and, make each of the teams feel comfortable, try to support them if they're struggling and all that sort of stuff, but also bring a little bit of life and a bit of fun and, just downplay the tension of it and all that sort of stuff. So do I make fun of most teams in a lighthearted way? 100%. Do I like to create little rivalries with some of the higher teams just for giggles? Absolutely. But I feel like I try to do it in a way where everybody knows I'm just having a bit of fun with them and it's just lightening the mood and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so that's my main goal. That's really as a volunteer, I think that's what your objective should be, to try and make sure everybody's having fun. And of course, I tend to hand out Chupa Chups a lot,
Yes.
which is maybe a thing. So originally I did that just to get some of them to behave, and now it's just kind of a pattern. It's
Yes.
like
you are well known for your Chubba Chub givouts.
I do. My Chupa Chup bill at events can get a bit hectic, so I might need sponsorship for that. But yeah, but no, it's good value.
You do also mentor some FTC teams and FRC teams. What is your experience with becoming a mentor? Last week we had William. He was a mentor and still currently is.
Yep.
What's your experience of being a mentor?
Look, from a non-technical point of view, mentoring is fairly simple. It's basically a process of just supporting and encouraging and trying to get them to work their way through their own solutions and troubleshoot their own problems. And I think any tournament that they have a clean run and everything works perfectly and nothing breaks down, it's actually kind of boring. It's where they have these difficulties along the way because something breaks or something's not quite working, and then they've got to troubleshoot that problem. And it's not really my job to do that for them. It's my job to encourage them to work their way through the problem. So I think that's probably I guess the best part. That's what my goal as a mentor is, to try and encourage them to take the reins rather than stand back and all that sort of stuff. And it's very, I guess you could say it's rewarding. Like, even if you look at my own children's point of view, so my son's very quiet, doesn't like to talk much, likes to stay back, very reserved, and he's been in the club now for 3 or 4 years, and you can see his evolution. He gets comfortable. He's he's with his people and all that sort of stuff, and that's the kind of thing that you get a lot of. I think it's rewarding to see that in all of the team members. So as they come to life and they find their feet, that's when you really see them start to grow. And so yeah, that's probably the main goal in it, the main reward out of it.
Yep. You give any final piece of advice, whether it be mentors, students, sponsors, vendors, any sort of person in the first community, what advice would you give?
In the words of the great Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last.
Some great advice.
No, I think if you don't know anything about FIRST, FTC and FRC, you should find a way to come and check it out and see what it's about and see what these teams and what the BotBuilders and the other teams around you do, because it's incredible. And you're shaping futures. Let's be honest, all of the kids in these teams are going to turn into future leaders and future innovators, and there's some amazingly smart and talented kids here. It's impressive. So I thoroughly encourage everybody to, get involved.
Yeah,
for sure.
You've just geared up with the BotBuilders and CMAC. If you want to see more Gear Up podcasts, because we have a great lineup of some mentors, volunteers, and students coming up, go to our YouTube channel to check out more.
And since you've done such a great job, Jack, have a chubba chub.
Oh, thank you very much.
And don't forget, the robot card is now live on our website, so feel free to go out there and download it and subscribe.